Hi everybody, this is Joy. I'm back for another interesting video. Today we're going to focus on Elvis and his FBI work. Alright, and the reason why we're going to focus on this is because when we read in a couple episodes before here, quite often, we read an account from Gene Smith to Deborah Presley Brando. And Jean Smith said that her father was involved in drug busts, and he got involved with um, some dangerous drug busts because his stepbrothers were involved in taking drugs. So he wanted to stop them. So it became personal to him. So he, after fighting with Vernon and Priscilla, said, "Get this, I'm going to leave. And I'm going to go get my badge that I want." So first he meets with Jerry Schilling. Now, Jerry Schilling has mentioned this in his book. Okay, so here is the account from Me and a Guy Named Elvis by Jerry Schilling. And I'm going to read portions of the chapter. Okay, so he got a phone call around Christmas, 1970. He said, "Jerry." But once I was caught off guard. "Who is this?" I asked, already suspecting the answer as I said the words. "It's me," he said. Of course it was. "Elvis, where are you?" The last I heard he was going to be in Memphis through the holidays. "I'm in Dallas, Texas, changing planes. I should be out there pretty soon." "Who's with you?" "Nobody," he said. He sounded proud of it. "You're at Dallas Airport by yourself?" "Yeah, listen, Jerry. I don't want anybody to know where I am. It's important. Can you meet me at the airport?" So I asked him what flight he was on, and for all the traveling Elvis had done in his life, he'd never had to worry about flight numbers and gate numbers and terminal numbers. We guys worked out the details. Elvis got on a plane and assumed it would get him to where he was supposed to be. But here I was on the phone, listening to Elvis rustle through his papers to figure out what flight of his American Airlines connecting flight to Dallas to LA was. And when I was sure I gotten the right numbers from him, I told him I'd bring my own car so not to attract any attention. He said, "Well, I think we can trust Sir Gerald." I guess is the guy that he used to use to drive cars. "Why don't you give him a call, but tell him I don't want anyone to know I'm here." So Gerald Peters was Elvis's old favorite limo driver in LA. An older, dapper, So Sir Gerald, a few hours later, just after 2 a.m., I was at the back of the driven by Sir Gerald, and we drove up to American Airline plane from Dallas. All right. So he asked Elvis when he got off the plane, "Hey, E, are you okay?" "Yeah, thanks for coming out." "What's in the box?" "That's my luggage." All right. "What's the matter with your skin, E?" Because he had red welts on his neck and his face. He says, "I took some penicillin for a sore throat, and I guess I have an allergic reaction to it. So maybe we should get a doctor to the house." So Elvis has an allergy to certain medications. So one of them, I guess, is penicillin. All right, I'll make the call. So he did that. And then we're going to go into they treated him for his allergy. And when he was done with his allergy, he caught up with him. He said, "So why I didn't want anyone to know where I was?" He said, "It's because Daddy and Priscilla were complaining about the way I spend my money and the way I spend my own damn money, and they went and bought the uh brought Colonel into it, and I wasn't going to sit around and listen to that. All right. So I tried to make it as, let's say, non as swearing as possible. All right. So there was some obscenities, but I skipped over those. Okay. So he stormed out of the house in the past of the various arguments, and by the time he simply walked out of the house and left town, he got in his first commercial flight to Memphis. From out of Memphis, which took him to Washington, D.C. He checked into a hotel there, and then decided he'd better off making his way to L.A. And then I later learned that Priscilla and Vernon had some reason to be upset because over the last month or so, Elvis was gone on a spending spree amounting to tens of thousands of dollars. So Elvis liked to spend his money. He made money, he wanted to spend it. And I wouldn't blame him on that. Jerry, he says, I'm going back to Washington tonight, and I need you to come with me. Elvis, I've got a job. I have to go to work tomorrow. I'll charter a Learjet to fly you back. If his spending habits were getting him into trouble, I didn't want him hiring a jet just for me. Look, Elvis, a chartered plane won't get me back any faster than a commercial flight. There's no use for spending that kind of money. For the first time that day, his warm expression darkened. All right, I'll go by myself, he said. And he sounded equal parts defiant, rebel, and pouting like a little boy. So Jerry says he felt responsible for his safety and thought about him carrying a gun onto a plane and maybe one of the pilots who wasn't so understanding. So anyway, he's listen, E, I'll go with you. You have to let me make a call. People may think you're hurt or kidnapped. Your family's probably worried sick. Let me tell your dad and Priscilla you are okay. And let me and Sonny or Red come and meet us in Washington. So we agreed, and he had Sonny come up. So it was Sonny West. So Sonny West and Jerry Schilling went to Washington. And on the way to Washington, he writes a letter to President Nixon. And he also needed money to get on because he had no cash. So they sent him cash, and he ended up giving the cash away on the airplane on the way out. So they had no more cash, right? Anyway. So let's see. He checked over the letter, and Jerry proofreaded it, and he said it looked good for the amount of, you know, for his educational level. It looked good. So that letter was handwritten and sent to President Nixon. So I'm going to pick up here with the rest of the information. All right. So he wrote, this is going to be hard to read, so you're going to bear with me. His handwriting is very messy. See? All right. And I think a lot of times when he writes, he's writing quickly and probably in a rush and hurried. So this is going to be a mess. All right. Dear Mr. President, first, I would like to introduce myself. I am Elvis Presley, and I admire you and have a great respect for your office. I talked to Vice President again in Palm Springs a week or two ago and expressed my concern for our country. The drug culture, the hippie elements, the SDS, Black Panthers, etc., do not consider me as this and as their enemy, or as they call it, the establishment. Hard to read, so I'm going to do my best, yeah. But I call it America, and I love it. Sir, I can and will be of any service that I can to help the country out. I have no concern or motives um, other than helping the country out. So, um, quick not to be given a title or an appointment. I will do more good if I were made a federal agent at large, and I will help, um, but by doing it my way through the communication with people of all ages. First and foremost, I am an entertainer, but all that I need is the federal credentials. I am on the plane with, the phone with Senator George Murphy, and we have been discussing the problems that um, our country is fraught with. So I'm staying at the Washington Hotel Room 505, 506, 507. I have two men who work with me. My name is by the name of Jerry Schilling and Sonny West. I am registered under the name John Burroughs. I will be here as long as it takes to get the credentials of a federal agent. I have um, done an in-depth study of drug abuse and communist. Can't even read these. Sorry, communist brainwashing. I think that's what it says. Techniques, and I'm right in the middle of the whole thing. Whereas I can and will do the most good. Okay. I am glad to help just so long as it is kept very private. You can have your staff and whatever call me anytime today, tonight, or tomorrow. I was nominated the coming year of one of the America's most outstanding young men. That will be in, I can't read these words. Anyway, so he says, I'm sending you the short autobiography about myself, a short autobiography about myself, and can, this is hard to read. Something approach. And I would love to meet with you just to say hello if you're not busy. Respectfully, Elvis Presley. I believe you, sir, were on the top of the 10 outstanding men in America as well. I have a personal gift for you who I would like present to you. You can, yeah, I can't read it. Anyway, he's saying something about. I'm looking to see if I can find it and print typed out, because sometimes she types them out, but I don't see it right. Anyway, so what he did was he asked the president, Nixon, for the credentials to become a FBI agent at large. All right. And he felt that being an entertainer, he could um go in as a mole, like undercover, and help out in some way with breaking up these groups and help with the drugs and all that stuff. So he was really against like the other kind of drugs. All right. And what's interesting about this story is that, um, and he's right. Jerry Schilling said the pages weren't pretty. Elvis's penmanship was somewhere between the doctors and the grade schoolers. But right away I was impressed with the tone of the writing. So Elvis being humble, respectful, and sincere in offering his services to the president to work as some kind of ambassador between rock and roll subculture and the government. And after describing the establishment that so many young people were finding fault with, Elvis had underlined a thought. I call it America and I love it. I felt a mix of feelings as I read that. I felt protective toward Elvis and I didn't want him to come across right-wing extremist. But he had also, when he was talking about his music and all that kind of thing, and if I can dream and loving one another and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let me see. He also said, first and foremost, I am an entertainer with all I need is a federal credentials. So, from the earliest periods of Elvis's career, he felt a strong kinship with the policemen who protected him. And these badges were sheriffs and police officers and everything. And he even said that the Memphis Mafia all had to take exams to be law enforcement. So he was big time into law enforcement and he had a lot of guns. And he said that also in the Elvis Found Alive video, that he had a lot of guns. He was involved in the FBI undercover. And they gave him, his badge, and they gave him a DEA tracksuit that he is very, very famous at wearing. All right. And he got involved in something that was a little bit dangerous. Yeah, I don't think he realized how dangerous it was, but it was. Okay. So I know that they were talking about how he met the president and um what it was like an honor to do it and everything. And he gave the president gifts and everything else, and gifts to Nancy and all that kind of thing. So he ended up getting his credentials. And also, what was interesting with Elvis was that he was an 8-degree karate black belt, which means he did very well with karate. So he could defend himself. All right. So the challenge that he had was they actually allowed a undercover agent to be in this band. And I don't know what he was doing, but there was something special he was doing. All right. So he was in the police and the law enforcement. And now in the Elvis Found Alive DVD, he said that he used to kiss the girls and invite them to the after get together somewhere at a hotel or party. And what he'd do is he'd go into the party with his guys, and they would put bugs in these houses because the houses were run by the mafia. And he said that they listened in on their conversations with the underground or the establishment or whoever it is. And they ended up, you know, getting some people arrested, not a lot. Anyway, he got in trouble and they found out who it was. And they had a hit out on his life and on Lisa Marie's life. And that's what Gene Smith told Deborah Presley Brando, was that in her book. And I'll repeat it again because every time I don't want anybody to say that this was not here and it was not real. If you tell somebody who has been with her father for a long time, like a brother to him. And he pulls him aside into the kitchen, and tells him certain things. He says in her book, "Deborah, I want you to listen to me." And so she nodded her head, and he covered my shaking hand with his. 8 days before the day he supposedly died, he called me and Louise to come over. He said he had something he needed to tell me. Deborah, he only ever called me over if it was urgent, life or death. All right. He said, he looked right into his eyes in the kitchen and he said, "Jean, I have to leave. I have to go away. You may not see me for a long time, maybe never again." Jean's voice broke, but he quickly composed himself. He looked away and I listened, unable to look into his blue eyes for fear of losing my composure. Deborah, he helped put away some Vegas kingpins that were giving cocaine to Billy and David, his stepbrothers from Vernon's marriage to Dee. He was scared. He didn't know what else to do. He felt that our country was being taken down by other countries by targeting our young with street drugs, cocaine, and heroin. It was personal for him. He said that is why he went to Nixon and got a DEA badge in 1970 to help fight illegal drugs in America. Someone broke into his home and cut the head of Lisa's teddy bear off and placed it on the table platter with a note. "This could be your daughter's head." These bad guys had leased Vernon a plane from Elvis and Vernon, and they refused to give it back. As a matter of fact, they paid a rental payment on it for $1 million, and they said that the check bounced. And he ended up going before a grand jury the day before he died. And then he had to go in what they call a witness protection program. So therefore, he staged his death. And Jean went on to say the casket was 900 pounds, and I had to put the sideburn back on the wax dummy. All right. So he told her that. All right. And that's her uncle, and a very, very, very close friend or close family member to Elvis. All right. So I will put in, if I can get, the clips from the Elvis files on TV. But in the meantime, if I can't, I'm going to tell you the notes I took from that. Okay? All right. So he's got into law enforcement, and in 1970 he got his FBI badge. And he allowed a secret agent to cover the band as a musician from 1974 to 1976. And these are files that you can find. Now, there is 1,400 pages of these FBI files. At the time, this program, I believe, was 1990, if I remember correctly, or 1991. Okay, so there is a lot of paperwork between 1976 and 1982 dealing with Frederick N.P. Pro for a stolen airplane. Now, this brought down Elvis worked on bringing down a crime ring that stole billions of dollars, billions of dollars in the sale of cars that belonged to E. So from 1976 to 1982, right? That's after 1977. This operation was called Operation Fountain Pen. So in May of 1976, the airplane was either leased or sold. They sold the Jetstar. And he was a con man, and he was what they said tied to the fraternity, which had direct ties to organized crime. So in the spring of 1977, Elvis lost more than $1 million because they gave him a check, but the check bounced for the airplane. So this started with the two top. It says the catalyst case to stop 2 members of 30 to 40 con men. So they were all a fraternity, were considered all con men, and they were all tied to the mafia. So his last trip, his last vacation, was March 4th, 1977. His last concert was January 26th, 1977. The evidence for the grand jury was ready on July 26th, 1977. In August of 1977, Elvis called Jimmy Carter for help. He wanted to get Secret Service protection, but that was only meant for the president. So he had to get help through witness protection. And then August 15th, 1977, he went before the grand jury as what they call a victim of a crime. In August 16th, Elvis stages his death. On October 18th, 1977, 4 members of the fraternity were arrested, including Frederick. All right? So that's October 18th, 1977. And some of the documents that they showed were written by none other than Elvis himself. So the handwriting specialist that was on the Elvis files stated that the handwriting on some of those files matched Elvis very closely. And he said there was one that was dated for 1978, I believe it said. I don't know why I didn't write it down. 1978, I believe, that had Elvis's handwriting on it. And it matched Elvis's handwriting very closely. And there was another thing on the Elvis files that they talked about in handwriting, and that was his death report, which we had gone over a couple videos back. All right, or his autopsy or death record. All right. So, there's another reason why Elvis would stage his death. I'm going to say, that threat really rocked him to the core and really, really made him afraid because he couldn't understand why anybody or how anybody could get into the gates of Graceland and get into the house without anybody knowing and doing that. They think, or somebody thinks, that somebody on the inside of Elvis's inner circle let it happen. We don't know. We can't say because really it's not said or mentioned or found out. So we can't really say that. That's conjecture. Anyway. So there were some questions that she asked. So since Elvis was an agent at large at the DEA and was at least involved in providing cover for 3 years for another undercover agent together with his ongoing associations with at least two United States presidents, both of whom spoke with shortly prior to August 16th, 1977. Is it possible that Elvis became the target of some drug dealers who were the focus of 1974 to 1976 criminal investigations? If you can at least fathom that possibility, then the next question would be, if Elvis and his family were under serious death threats due to his DEA involvement, could Elvis turn to that same government for protection? And he did. Now, from what I understand, in his book, The Truth About Elvis Aaron Presley in his own words, he stated that he did not go into witness protection. He went into the program and then he found out what it was all about and changed his mind because he wouldn't be able to contact Lisa, wouldn't be able to contact anyone he knew, wouldn't be able to continue on entertaining people, and that's not what he wanted. So he left witness protection and had a different type of program. Let me look what Deborah said in her book. It was a different type of program that just began in 1977. So she said that her father was safely hidden for the most part in witness protection program, but now it's called the Security Protection Program and is handled through the U.S. Marshals. And the program was relatively new in 1977. So he probably has U.S. Marshals guarding him or private security. His need for security is still even great today, even though most of those mafia families are gone. Because once you have a death, what they call my friend Jim said this, once you have what they call a hit ordered on you, it doesn't matter. Even if the people that called for the hit are gone, it just continues with the next generation. So, that is it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you found it informational, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for alerts, like this video to spread it across YouTube, share this video wherever you can. And for the next time, I don't know what's going to be next, but you'll have to wait and see. Until then, God bless y'all, and goodbye.